Tutorial. Today we're going to be covering a very important concept called loops. This is very important for any programming language, and Python is no such exception. Now, before we get into the syntax of writing loops, let's discuss what they are and how they're useful. Now, loops are simply executing a block of statements or a single statement multiple times. How are they useful? Let's say that you have 100 numbers and you want to find the sum of all these numbers. An intuitive way of doing that is to be able to go over each of these numbers and add them to the previous number. So at the end of the iteration or at the end of the process, you get the sum of all numbers. Now, what operation are you repeating at each point? Take a step back, take a pause and think. So what you're doing here is essentially taking a particular number at the ith location and adding it to the number before it. So if you had a list like 1, 2, and 3, you would be adding 1 to the number 2, and then you would be adding the sum of 1 and 2 to 3. So essentially, you're repeating the addition operation multiple times. This is why loops are useful. They let you repeat a particular operation any number of times that you want. Now, in Python, the most known way of writing loops is via the keyword called for, right? And the syntax is something like this. For item in a sequence, the colon is important, and you need to add some indentation. Do some operation, right? So a very trivial example would be to, let's say, output numbers in a list, right? Let's say we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For item in L, print item. Yep. That's how you would use a for loop in Python. So your sequence here is the list, and the operation here is printing that particular value to stdout or to the console. So if you were to go ahead and run this, I expect the output to be each of the values of that particular list, right? Which is exactly what we get. Now, while all that is fine and dandy, for loops have a limitation. You need to predefine the sequence somehow. What I mean by that is, for the example here, you need to have a sequence to iterate upon, and sequences are usually finite. In computer terms, you cannot have something as an infinite sequence. You cannot represent an infinite sequence in memory. You need to have that predefined so that you can loop over it or iterate over it. Well, all that is good. It's not really the best solution around. There are another kind of loops that Python provide, and these are called while loops, or the while syntax. And the syntax is pretty much similar, except for one stark difference, which is what I'm going to show you right now. While Boolean condition is true, go ahead and do your thing. How this is interesting and how this is useful is that you don't need to have the sequence predefined. So if I were to print the first 10 numbers, I could be essentially doing something like this. I is equal to 1, while I is less than equals 10. Print I. However, I need to increase the value of I for each iteration. So by this particular logic, I should be able to print the first 10 numbers on the screen. Well, it printed the other part that was not necessary, so we go ahead and comment that out. If I were to go ahead and run that program again, I get the output as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is exactly what I expected. Now, the beauty of this is that you can go ahead and change this number to 1,000. right? And if you go ahead and run that, you get, sorry, you can basically go up to any value that you want, provided you stay within the limits that your computer supports. Right, cool. Now, point to note is that while loops need a stopping condition, and the stopping condition is when this Boolean condition evaluates to false. In this case, you can see that if the value exceeds 10,000, this condition becomes false, and this is where the loop terminates. What if we were to always have this condition as true, right? How would we do that? We could go ahead and change this particular value to a always true condition, which means regardless of whatever happens, regardless of the value that you're evaluating, your Boolean condition for while is always true. If you were to go ahead and run this, what do you expect is going to happen? Think. You see, the program never terminates. And until you hit the Control-C or the keyboard interrupt signal, your program continues to run. So this is very important to remember. Your while loops always need a terminating condition to happen such that you can exit out of the while loop. There are many instances when small and trivial mistakes made by programmers lead to infinite loops, which are very, very hard to debug. Trust me, this has happened to many of us developers around, and though a trivial bug, it is sometimes very, very hard to spot. So keep that in mind when you're writing your while loops. Cool. So that was all about loops. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button, show me some love, and hit the subscribe button too. Until then, see you around. Have a great day.